Commissioner Raleigh Wright.
Looks like she's muted, but she's showing in the.
I'll give her another chance to speak again. Commissioner Patrick.
Present.
Commissioner Sims.
Here.
Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
Commissioner Holmes, Councilman Holmes.
Present.
Councilman Johnson. Is there anyone's name on the commission? Commissioner McCauley, our newest member.
That's the one that told me she was having trouble getting on.
Okay, and Commissioner Raleigh Wright. I'll give you another chance to try to speak.
She just told me she can't get on. I
Okay,
don't know why I received these and you're not. Oh,
Okay, Commissioner Raleigh Wright just said she's present. Okay, you all, let's, we have a forum and let's get started. It's 3:16 p.m. We're here to discuss the budget. Oh, and Commissioner McMichael. I need to give him the opportunity to speak. Commissioner McMichael.
I'm here.
Great, okay. So now we have,
Madam Vice Chair, we just had Commissioner McCauley join us, at least it's showing on the screen.
okay, Commissioner McCauley, if you can say you're present in the Zoom today, present for the meeting, that would be great. If you can unmute yourself.
I am finally. I've been trying to get on over 15 minutes and had trouble with my computer as well as trying to get on with the phone. So I apologize for the tardiness.
No, thank you so much. Thank you. Welcome. Okay, so we have a forum of our commissioners today, and let's go ahead and get started at 3:16 p.m. I open the floor to any discussions. I know we had some questions at our last meeting about the budget, and some commissioners, specific commissioners had specific questions and they wanted to go back and do a little bit more research and then have a conversation about the budget. So let's go ahead and open the floor up today to those particular commissioners, first off, that had questions in the meeting, and then we'll open the floor up to other questions or concerns.
Madam Vice Chair, do we have a copy of the budget that we can present so individuals can see it to make sure we have it?
I think everyone received a budget at the meeting. I made sure that Denise in our last meeting on November the 4th, she passed out a budget to each commissioner. And I think all commissioners were present except for Commissioner Page, and she actually created the budget. So I think she has a copy.
Okay, I'm not in possession of my budget, so I don't have the exact numbers. And so with that, I can actually begin. I think most importantly that I can remember is the film crew.
Okay, so let's go
just
back.
to that,
Let's figure out how you can have it in front of you, Rob. Let's figure out how you can get the budget in front of you if you have questions about it. Do you not have that packet from the other night?
I don't have the budget, no. I
Okay,
don't have it in front of me.
okay. Well, go ahead with your question then. Excuse me for interrupting you.
Director House, this is Councilman Holmes. Is there a way that we could project the budget, share the screen, the city could put the budget up that we had and just share it on the screen right now?
Yes, Councilman Holmes, we're working on that now. There might be a connection issue. You're kind of choppy.
Yeah, I think everyone's experiencing that. If I heard very little of what Mr. Sims said, so hopefully it's fixing now. But I think if we get the budget up on the screen, I think we can all view it here. Thank you.
Okay, we're working on that, And maybe if folks want to, until this gets resolved, the data issue, whatever it is, gets resolved, if you want to mute your cameras, that might help with the stream. But we'll let you know. You'll be able to see when we get the document up. But if you want to proceed, we'll let you know as soon as that comes up.
Okay, so I'll go back to Commissioner Sims. Commissioner Sims, do you want to go ahead and ask your question again about the film crew?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is that clear?
Mhm.
Yes.
Choppiness?
No, we can hear you. You sound good.
Okay. Well, I do believe that the film crew, the documentary crew, I think they were, it was proposed that they get $11,000, but there was no description as to who that crew was, what that cost breakdown is. And so just for verification's sake, just want to know who that film crew is, what do they propose to offer, and you know, who owns that video once it is, you know, shot and produced and when it's all said and done.
Okay, so if anyone can answer Commissioner Sims' question, that would be great. But one thing we did talk about in the meeting is that we would go out and do our due diligence and we would seek out that information. So if that was something that you were interested in knowing, hopefully someone can tell you that today. But I hope that it hasn't gone from the 4th to the 13th and you still don't know your answer to that. I would have asked you to have done your due diligence on that. So does anyone, other commissioners on the meeting today or on the call today have the answer to Commissioner Sims' question?
This is Commissioner McMichael, and the answer is no. What I would like to see with this budget is that we offer our RFP. I don't want to have to seek out somebody that's I don't know him. I don't have his information, and that's not my responsibility to call him. If whoever hired him or knows him should be bringing that information to the commission, because clearly somebody on this commission knows him. And so whoever is in relationship with him, could they offer that information?
That would be great. And is it one individual or are we?
I don't know.
Because I'm not understanding that. I thought it was just like an average. I didn't know we have identified a group. I know that.
No,
there
the
was
guy
a
has been in the, he's been at our meetings.
He's been at the
Right,
meeting.
that's Thomas Scott. That's Thomas Scott. But is he the only person that can put in a bid, or is that, what are we saying?
No, Madam Vice Chair, this is Councilman Holmes, and this is why I wanted us to have this discussion, because
Yes.
that's generally not how these things work. We don't have someone.
Exactly.
We don't have someone start work and then have them set the price. I mean, we go through an RFP process and then we take the bid.
Right, but I don't think that, let's just talk about them. This is just my assumption, and this is, because they're not in the room, but I think they came as citizens, taxpayers of High Point, and they were recording something because this is history making that we're doing. And I think they were recording something because they are a videographer or whatever those names are. They're that group of expert individuals. So I think that's how it came about. Now, when we said we were looking for, or we put out a budget, and those things came about in conversation in our meetings, I think maybe they submitted something, but we need to see what they submitted then, if that's the case. But at first they were just taxpaying citizens looking to record history.
Yeah, so that's fine, but if they were doing that of their own volition, then this commission cannot be then responsible for paying them without going through the process of procuring their services.
And no one said that, Councilman Holmes. No, I mean, no one's saying go out of order. People are just trying to get in order and understand.
Well, what I'm saying is that it was $11,000 line item put on the budget, and these folks were identified. And so it's essentially was saying that that in the budget, these were the identified people that we were hiring, and we can't do it that way. And so
No.
if they want to submit a bid now, that's fine. That's the proper process. If they want to submit a bid, we just need to have an RFP. We just need to know what services we're trying to procure and what services that they're offering. Like the video, we haven't even set a plan on what the video is for. Like this commission hasn't stated what we're actually trying to get from this recorded history. Like, is it a feature length film? Is it a commercial? Like, what is
that? Would have been something, exactly. And that would be something I would say that the communications when we had that commission or that commission itself, I know it's not all the way existing, but that's conversation that you all would have. You know, what does it look like in recording? I know Commissioner McMichael, you would be big on that, I'm sure,
that would be
in documenting and recording our history. So in that case, that would be a conversation that you guys may have had. I haven't had that privy to conversation.
This is Commissioner McMichael, and I appreciate your passion. Nobody has ever come to me as the public relations chair to talk to me about a documentary, a videographer, or concerned citizen. So for me, I'm really concerned about the level of information we have prices. And this budget line item, if we're honest, started off at 40,000, it went to 11,000, and we still don't know. As the public relations chair, and I know this committee is gone, I don't even know. And I feel like whoever is the point of contact, can they just say they're the point of contact? Let's get the information and let's move on. I don't have any problem with him doing it. I'm just trying to figure out what's included. What are the line items? Yeah, I think we need somebody to capture this history. But then here again, I've never had a conversation with him about this.
So you know, Commissioner McMichael, who we need to be talking to, the people that created this budget, because we're all on this call lost because none of us put that on the budget. None of us know this. None of us know. None of us did this.
Okay.
Whoever worked on this budget, let's have them talk and let's be quiet so they can talk, because they can talk about this budget. We don't know anything. We're just the viewers of this budget. We didn't create this. So how about let's figure out who created the budget and let's have a conversation with them. And if they're not on the call today, then we don't need to be having this conversation because this is wasting time.
No, I agree with that. I thought they would. Go ahead. I thought they were on the call. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Let's see who created the budget.
This is Commissioner Riley, right? And that in itself is probably a large part of what made it concerning for me, is that there were things on the budget that the commission was not aware of, and people were in place or placed on the budget as though they were in place that the commissioners were not aware of. That means that felt to me, I'm not gonna say what was done, but it felt like to me that one person was driving the car and they should not have been. All of us should have been engaged in what was going on.
Right, and I can say this as vice chair. The finance committee went around, and Commissioner Sims, you can talk about this. You asked everyone to have an input. I know you came to the research committee that consisted of Commissioner Hensley, that consisted of Commissioner Williamson, that consisted of myself, and that consisted of Commissioner Tolliver. They came to us and said, what can you give us for the budget? We want to sit down, we want to meet with you, or we want to talk about the budget. What are your needs? So they came around to our groups, our different subcommittees, and they inquired. Now, whether we provided them because we didn't know all of what we needed, we really didn't know of all of what we needed. We knew in research, I can only speak for us, that we needed a genealogist. We knew that we went to the library and we talked to the heritage department, and they said, oh, we don't know a lot about the Black history of High Point. We haven't been privy to that. So we can't really give you a deep dive in. We can only give you surface information. So we took that and we said, okay, so we need a genealogist. We know we need an economist. We know we need a historian, a local one, and a national maybe one. So we knew we needed these things. We identified them, we also identified that the average rate for these expert individuals is $88 per hour, an average. So we said between $88 to $100, that's an average for these particular experts. So that's how a line item could have come up from research for those particular line items. I can only speak on that. Now, I don't know when they went around and asked communications, or if they went around and asked the chair, or whomever else can speak about that themselves. I can only speak about what they asked of us. And as not experts, and as a learning and as we're learning this process, then those are the individuals that we identified as the research team that were able to be appropriate for this particular project. And Mr. Sims, Commissioner Sims, please speak on behalf of the others, because you, Commissioner Austin Page, and Commissioner Reynolds were a part of the initial budget that has some of this in there right now that we're looking at.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. Actually, this budget, like you had mentioned, was presented by Dawn Page. And
Okay.
when she presented it, there was not a discussion. We did have an initial discussion, and we actually had a meeting. We had a full commission meeting. And at that meeting, it was then presented to us to come back with a final version. This budget is the final version. Now, I didn't have a lot to do with this final version. That's why I'm asking questions about who these other individuals are, because I don't know who they are. And I had a question about the documentary crew. I also have a question about the project manager, because I think I heard Commissioner Alston said that he was taking on that responsibility. So I was wondering if that line item goes to him.
No,
And then-
it does not. We talked about that. He said that he's interim. He's only filling in until we hire a project manager, because he is not an expert in project management. He
Okay,
was clear
great.
about that.
Okay, great. So then what's going to be the process for that line item? And then there, I mean, if everyone's looking at the budget, like I said, a lot of this stuff I did not come up with. So this is something that was presented once the subcommittees were meshed into research. So this document comes, as far as I know, from Commissioner Page.
Okay, so Vice Chair, I think that Commissioner Page needs to explain these items that she put on there and what's in her folder. What is attached to that? This film company, who are they? What is the line items? Did you tell them what we were looking for and they gave you a proposal? How did that look? Let's have that conversation. But today, I don't want to waste any time. And if we don't have the right people in this conversation, I move to close this meeting, and we have it again another time.
At this point, it does not appear that the right people are in this conversation. And that's concerning, because those are the people who need to explain what's going on, why it's going on, and why the rest of us didn't have privy to this information before it was presented. As I stated at the meeting, one of the things that concerned me was that here I am at a meeting, and at the retreat, we talked about one budget, and I get to the meeting and here's another budget. And a lot of these line items are quite different from what was said. Like there was $3,000 for genealogy. There was $3,000 for economists. Of course, there was legal information in there. So a lot of this budget is not the budget that we discussed during the retreat. And that's where my concerns are. And that's where they probably will stay. Because again, it sounded like one person was driving the car. And then at the meeting, they told us all to jump on and ride too. I can't do that without explanation.
And I do believe this budget is less than the budget that was presented in the meeting at our retreat. And that budget was more expensive than this budget is now.
My concern is not so much the expense, but the alteration of how money is spent and where money is given.
I have a motion on the floor. I have a motion on the floor to close the meeting until we have the right people in place. Do I hear a second?
Madam Vice Chair, this is not an official meeting, so there won't be any need for motions and seconds. This is just a discussion. No official action can be taken in this meeting.
Okay, well,
Madam Vice Chair, may I make a suggestion before we move to adjourn? I think what we need to do, and I think if Dr. Wade and Mr. Ratchford are on today, I think that what would have been good today for us to do is have a working budget session to agree on line items. It appears that we have all come to the realization that this budget was created by a single commissioner, which I think is problematic for all of us because we all have to sign off on this budget and be accountable for it. And I don't think many of us had any input on what goes into this budget. And so my suggestion to Mr. Ratchford and to Dr. Wade is that if we can take a portion of our next meeting with all commissioners present to create a budget framework, and then all of us have that here, because we don't have our chairman here today, we don't have our full commission. I would have liked to have gotten that done today and agreed on the line items of what goes into the budget, and then construct RFP, or then put in RFPs, or follow the democratic procurement process, but we don't have everyone here. So would that be appropriate if we did that at the start of our next meeting, took the first, say, hour with this budget here as our presiding document, and then create a final budget framework with all commissioners present?
I could agree to that. This is Vice Chair Austin Wilson. I could agree to that, but let me just go back real quick and remind us all that in that retreat, it was given to one commissioner the duty from the chair to go back, revisit the budget, put something else together, if we can go back on the recording, and to come back. So not that one commissioner forcefully put themselves in that position, but it was a request. And it was a request to have it back within a certain period of time, if we can all go back on that recording. So let's be mindful of that, to say that one commissioner did not, Commissioner Austin Page did not just step out and create a budget. She was instructed to create that budget.
I apologize, Madam Vice
Let's
Chair.
be clear.
I did not remember that. If that's the case, then that's my apologies. But
Yes.
but still, I think this budget is not workable at this moment.
Oh,
There's too many
definitely.
gaps. There's too many gaps, and there's too little information for any. I think most of us to feel comfortable voting for it. So
It's definitely too evasive, and it's a process that goes into it, and we've recognized the process goes through an RFP and a vetting procedure, and that's what we will follow.
This is Willie Rashford, and if you all don't mind, I'd like to go back to what Commissioner McMichael has proposed. I think, first of all, I think it is a really great idea, and to make that even part of the agenda for the next official meeting of the group, or the full agenda would be appropriate. As I recall from the retreat, you all had decided on a budget of $105,500, and you had laid out some line items that you wanted to consider. And I don't think Commissioner Don Austin Page was given the responsibility of going back to create the budget. She was asked to, along with the rest of you, to write a business case for the line items that you all had discussed at the retreat.
But
And
she
so-
was to get back to Commissioner Austin.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yes,
And so,
she was
and
definitely
plus,
identified in that.
and plus, if even though I think you're making the right decision not to have any decisions regarding the budget today because the appropriate folk are not here. But there's nothing wrong with you all putting some ideas on in this space about what should be the budget items, and then you can begin to finesse that at the next full meeting of the group, or you can have the group to send in ideas on what they think might constitute the budget, and then you discuss those at this next meeting.
I think maybe we should have the group send them in to Chair Austin and myself throughout this week, and then we can review them, and then we can compile something, and then that gives us a talking point for our next meeting. That helps us with our agenda.
Madam Vice Chair, we've had two commissioners with their hands raised for a considerable amount of time.
Please, I can't see them. I can't see them. Jerome,
Commissioner
please just-
Sims and Commissioner McMichael.
Go ahead and acknowledge, Commissioner Sims.
I yield to Commissioner McMichael. His hand was up before mine.
Oh, okay, I can't see anything. Sorry, guys. Commissioner McMichael.
Thank you. It's not that I have a problem with the budget, and I feel like what Mr. Ratchford said is great. I feel like the budget in terms of the final cost of everything is agreeable. If we could just go through the process to open up these line items to the people, so that they can submit things to us. That seems to me to be, so instead of getting into a discussion about who's who, can we say, let's go through a procurement process. We have these items set, because if we take the next meeting to do this, I don't think anyone is arguing with the line items. I believe we're just saying, let's figure out who's going to do what, and let's make sure that people know that there are line items there, so that it's not just one particular, we have some choices. So if I'm wrong for the way I'm understanding it, it seems like,
correct.
Yeah, I don't want to push it all the way to the next meeting. And when we could, is there a process for us to open this up? How do we make an official announcement that we're looking for bids, or does that happen after the budget gets approved?
Yeah. So this is Jerron. So the process, the process would be that the group agrees on the categories. The categories, whatever the group collectively agrees on, would establish a total or estimated budget. That budget amount would be approved, and then after you have an approved budget, that's when you would look out for that's when the city would actually look for people in those categories that those budget areas have been identified. But it would be premature to start taking RFPs or to take any bids from anyone, to our earlier point, without an amount that we agreed on from the group that gets approved, and then what those line items are that the individual will be agreeing on. That would need to be in place before people start coming in with their quotes and proposals.
Does any other commissioners have any questions or concerns?
So this is Commissioner McMichael, and I would then see if we could use this discussion to see if we're okay with these categories, so that we can move to the next phase. I believe a lot of us were under the assumption that the categories that were there were already designated, but with what Mr. Hollis just said, I'm okay with approving the line items, and then just opening up, once we approve it, the different categories for us to find companies or people or organizations to complete the work.
Okay, so do we see anything that we want to delete? Any commissioners want to see any line item that they would like to delete?
To be honest with you, while I agree, Commissioner McMichael, I think unless we're going to do this today, then we need to have a discussion on the need for these line items. And I don't think I don't know if we've done that in detail. Like what are these line items? What do they get us to? What are we accomplishing with a documentary? What is the end point of that? Like, where does it go? What is it for? The economists, yes, we understand those things. I continue to go back to the stipend. No other commission receives a stipend. The genealogist, if we're doing restorative economic policy, is the genealogist just for as part of the history for people to know their connection to the history of High Point? It wouldn't factor in any distribution of any resources that we're doing. So essentially what we're talking about is the idea that we would be doing lineage-based reparations. We've already discussed that in the previous meeting. That's a federal style reparations and not a municipal. So is the genealogist just for added benefit for the people of High Point? If that's the case, that's fine. But in terms of it being a necessary point for the policy prescription to be passed, I don't know if that's the case. I think what we should do, and I think at the meeting, it should be a budget meeting, as I stated earlier, and Mr. Rashford concurred. We need to have a deeper discussion on these line items. If these are the line items that we all agree should go in there, we should have a discussion on whether or not they're appropriate for the budget.
This is Commissioner Riley Wright, and Councilman Holmes, I think I might disagree with you just a little bit on the genealogist. So my thoughts are that that person will be needed in order to make a connection as to how we present to the city about what we feel like some of those concerns, some of the harms that were done in the past that can be reflected through that type of research.
Commissioner Riley Wright, I was just adding about the discussion. If it is appropriate, then it by all means it should be in the budget. But I think we should open up that discussion and have full commissioners there with our chair about these line items. And if we come to an agreement that these are it, then I say that's how we proceed with the budget. But if the commission agrees that a genealogist is absolutely required for us to deliver the final product, then that's what we'll put in the budget. So I understand what you're saying, and I wasn't for or against the genealogist. I was just saying, how do we need to have a broader discussion on what the line items get us?
I understand.
And I can say that with the genealogist or with any of those particular genealogists, economists, historian, we did our due diligence in our subcommittee as research, and we determined as a group that we were tasked to do, we determined that those particular people were key people that we needed and we must have to be able to find our way to equality in High Point. So we did a due diligence. So what we will do is share what we learned, and then we can educate the group more, give them a little bit more knowledge, and we can have discussion about that.
Hello, can I say something?
Mhm.
This is Commissioner Sims, and I can actually go through each line item right now with a yay or nay, or with a wait and see approach, because the genealogist, I think that's going to have an impact on how we decide what reparations looks like. Because if we're looking at how the reparations will affect the community, there's a lot of different ways that we can look at that. So, there's going to be more to that discussion. So I think a genealogist, we can kind of hold off and see if we'll need it. I think, the community town halls is going to be needed. The documentary crew, I'm for that. The project manager, I'm kind of on the fence because I know we as commissioners, we're going to be doing a lot of research. So I think that we can get a project manager to help us when it's time to put the final product together. But I believe that most of us collectively can get what we need done in a timely fashion, because we already do have some support, with the current, project manager or project assistants that we have with WRP. The redlining, that one, I'm for that one. No, I'm for redlining. The American Freedmen Reconstruction, Jim Crow and High Point. I don't know if we need that. Again, that's information that we can provide. We just need some help with the final product. The economists, I'm for. The stipends, I'm on the fence with that one, because for a stipend, to me, I feel like there's something that we have to do for that stipend. And when I say do something for that stipend, maybe as a group, we have to go to Asheville. Maybe we have to go to Durham. But for us to be in the city of High Point, to get gas to go to a meeting in High Point that we do once a month, I'm not sure that the cost, supports that need, because, for a stipend, there's a lot of stuff we have to do. We have to go to meetings, and if we're going to meetings, then that should be recorded. I don't know a lot of meetings that we have scheduled except for the YWCA, which again, I'm for it, but I would like to know that if we're receiving, a stipend, there's something that we're doing for that stipend. And that's just my take on it. I'm on the fence with the commissioners and the genealogist. I don't want to spend as much on the project manager because I don't think we'll need him to that extent. But I am for the town halls, the redlining, the genealogist, and the economist.
Commissioner Sims, I heard you say something about the project management. This is Commissioner Riley, right? I'm sorry. Can be done by WRAL. So do they have RLP or whatever? I said it wrong, I'm sure. But are they a part of this somehow that I wasn't aware of prior to?
And
Well,
have
no,
they
if you-
volunteered their services?
But no, I'm not. What I'm saying is, for what we have to do right now, we can gather a lot of that information. So any project manager, which I say we'll need one because we want to get that final version to make it look great. But for that project manager, I'm just suggesting we cut down that 15,000 to maybe 10, because we may not need a project manager until the very end. But that's just me looking at it from an overview, just looking at some of the stuff we'll do as commissioners, what kind of work we'll put in, and just how we're going to be leading this discussion, because there are some things on the table as far as how we want to come with our suggestions. And so in the next few months, we're going to be looking at some things that we want to suggest. There is a lineage-based approach that's on the table. There's also a, restorative economic policy that we may be looking at that's on the table. And when you look at both of those, there are so many different facets that come with it, because, we may be looking at, those descendants of slaves in High Point, but maybe there's a bigger picture here. And if we're trying to restore what has been lost in this community, then it's going to cover a whole lot more than just a payment. It's going to come with, some policies that's going to help bring not just us, but the community back online. And so that could be some programs, that could be an apology. I think that's one thing we'll start seeing as we get into our research. That may be a crucial part of what we want from the city of High Point. An apology can come in many forms. It can be a day commemorating an event. It could be a neighborhood that we commemorate also in the spirit of reparations. So there's just a lot of moving parts to it. And like I say, as an overview, that's just the way I see it. And that's just, my take on it.
So Commissioner Sims, this is Commissioner Riley, right? I'm not sure that you heard my question. I heard you mention WRLP. Did I say it right?
No.
It's WPR.
See that? No, I'm not talking about us, Ms. Wright. I was talking about who we currently have, WPR. So any assistance we need as far as project management, we already got them.
All right, got you.
Yeah, I didn't mean us. I apologize. I meant WPR.
I was like,
Thank you,
who?
Mr. Rashford.
Because that
not
was
a
my
problem.
that was me, like, okay, so because I keep hearing about people that are involved that we're not talking about. So okay, so I know who that is. I'm good.
So this is Councilman Holmes. I know we can't officially take any action today because of the rules on Zoom. We have to be in a meeting, but I think that what we can do is just get a sense of the current line items. Are there any items that are not there that anyone feels should be there? And I think that's why we need to have the meeting where we discuss this budget fully, each line item to agree. But with this being our foundation budget, because there could be some that folks would want on there that are not. But I do think that we could probably get a sense from the commissioners represented today, which line items that are currently posted that we feel strongly about. And is it possible for us, for each of us to take a copy of the budget that we have, strike through what you want and what you want to keep, and then send it into Jerron no later than, say, Tuesday. That way we can compile who wants to keep what line items, and we all are on record with the ones that we want to keep by the time we go to our next meeting. And those that that receive the fewest support, they get stricken. Those that have the most support are kept. And when we go to our budget discussion in our meeting, full meeting, that's what we start with. Does anyone have a problem with that approach? Yes,
No, I do
no?
not. I do
Yes,
not.
no, maybe so. Mr. Rashford, do you think that's a reasonable approach?
I think that is a reasonable approach. You all, you need to get yourselves in a position where you can get this behind you so you can get to the next step. And you all are really, really close. It's just a matter of deciding these are the line items that we want, place a cost to them, get it to the city for approval. And once the city approves it, then you can start the RFP or bidding process to get folk in to actually do that work that's outlined on those line items. You all are really, really close.
I believe Commissioner Williamson had his hand up.
Yeah, I think he did.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, because I was just trying to piggyback off what Commissioner Holmes was saying in regards to adding line items to the budget. I know we spoke about having legal representation when it comes to reparations. And I was trying to figure out if I can remember what the decision was on that and if that needed to be added to the budget.
Mr. Commissioner Williamson, I was actually with you on that legal issues or legal concerns. And I think at the last meeting, it was brought up that the city of High Point would provide us with legal assistance. And I still have my concerns about how that impacts what we're doing and who we are and who it is that we're approaching for some of the concerns that we have.
And I agree with that also, because that's my concern, because I do not want the city to what is their what is their reach when it comes to assisting us with the getting our reparations through, because I don't want us or what we're doing to get tied up in bureaucratic red tape where they're just shutting us down, because we need to have a clear interpretation of what policies are out there that may put a pigeonhole on us from getting our line items through and getting any other type of actions through to prevent us from reaching the bigger goal, getting the reparations, getting policy changes within the city, and just getting the African-American people of High Point what they deserve.
So, Commissioner Williams, the legal department would only take on whatever item we requested them to take on. So they're not approving anything. So the idea is that they would make recommendations to us around any policy. Like if we had a question about the legality of a specific policy or legislation that we intended to enact, they would research legal precedent and then provide us with recommendations. They wouldn't necessarily say to us that this is that they have any say-so on whether or not we present this to council. They would just give us legal counsel over anything that we presented to them in terms of whether of legalities, precedents, or anything like that. Whatever we decide to put in the final package, we will decide to put that in the final package. And that legal representation would just be counsel on whether or not there's precedent for it, or whether or not it would face any legal challenge. It wouldn't be up to them whether or not it goes into the final package. It would be up to the commission. And then if we submitted that, then that goes to full council. The legal department has no say so over what we do as a commission in terms of deciding the final package. They're just counsel.
This is Commissioner Riley, right? I get all that. I get that they don't make the decision, but what I feel like, what it feels like and sounds like to me, is asking the city of High Point to lead us legally in this process is technically a conflict of interest in my mind.
I agree.
Maybe it's just me, but that's what it's
I
feeling like.
concur.
Yeah, this is Jerron Hollis here. Yeah, I think in hearing some of the back and forth that's going on, first with the budget, there, from the city standpoint and the budget standpoint and the approval standpoint, there doesn't seem like there is collective agreement and understanding on those individual items. So I think going through and scoring, say, redlining and eminent domain or American Freedmen and Reconstruction without having an understanding of what it is, I don't think the group collectively has an understanding because those things haven't been reported out back to the group as a whole. So those individual items need some education and instruction. One of the things that's been going on with a combination of what some commissioners have been doing, what the chair has been doing, and independent research, there are people who have come forward that would be able to take care of some of these elements in combination so that we would almost be duplicating efforts on some of these things. So I think there's not a shared understanding of what each one of these terms are to a point where the commission could say with an informed stance of you need this or that without additional discussion. So that part is something to be considered going into the next meeting. As far as Commissioner Riley Wright, you make a good point about the intricacy of this work, of this process. But to start at the top, and I've had this conversation with the vice chair before as well. This entity is a city body, period. It's a city body. So this group, just like the Planning Commission, just like the Human Relations Commission, this created by council. So it's not in opposition to the city. So everything this group does is in line with what the city does because this group's job is to bring back recommendations. So a conflict of interest would imply that the two parties are working on a different page, and they're not. This is a city commission. So there might be recommendations that come out of here that the city has to individually approve or disapprove, but it's not the commission versus the city. The commission is the city. It's just an arm of the city to do specific work in line with the guidelines that have been provided through the resolution. So the resolution is the guiding document. There's not extra power or authority or provisions beyond that. And the resolution is clear that the city and the commission are one. This commission is just doing express work for the city for the purpose of bringing back a recommendation. So it's not a conflict of interest or one entity versus another, because at the end of the day, it's all under the same umbrella. That's all I'd say.
I hear what you're saying, but there's a part of me that has to respectfully disagree. But I hear what you're saying about how it's set up, and because it's through the city, I get all of that. But I mean, I'm a realist, and I call a spade when I see a spade. And when I see something that I know, that I believe deep down that it can be some confusion, for lack of a better word on my part, that can arise from some of the things that may be discussed or some of the things that may be requested. So that's why I stand where I stand.
And I think if we can identify those specific examples, if you've got some specific examples of things that you think will be problematic, I think it will be really helpful that we work through that process, an education process, to see if there actually is an issue. And 9 times out of 10, if it's an issue that the city can't work on, it's probably an issue that the commission can't work on either. So, but if there are specific areas that are identified where you or the commission collectively thinks that there's some recommendations, you make those recommendations. There's nothing that stops from making a recommendation. But every procurement piece is going to have to go through the city process. Every decision is going to be based on that resolution. So there's not really an avenue to deviate from that. But if there's an issue that's something that's in the resolution or in the city procurement policy for the process that you or someone has questions about, we'll be glad to try to answer those. But again, there's not an alternate path where, because again, if the city can't do it, then the commission can't do it because they're one and the same.
Okay.
So I guess just to put a bow on this, are we going to move ahead? Are we going to move ahead with scoring each of these items, these line items, and then staff will compile those who got the most, I guess, the most votes, straw votes, I guess, and then we move forward with those at the next meeting as a basis, as a budget framework.
I agree with you. We can do that. That'll be great.
Yeah, so we can move forward with something that's workable and agreeable for us all.
Absolutely.
Jerron, any suggestions on how to make this efficient? Can we set up maybe a Google Doc or something that maybe folks can log on to and put a yes or no in there, and then everyone have a chance so that that staff can compile this? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think one thing that we can do, because when we talk about scoring, and we remember this from the selection process, that can be a little tricky, coming up with a rubric, et cetera. But I think your idea for a Google document, for these items that are on this particular version of the budget, we can put those in a Google document and leave space for each commissioner to have access to that document and leave comments, notes, I support, I don't support, and you have the why. And each of those would be for each of those categories. And then you have that information as a full commission going into that meeting, the next commission meeting, so that you're really having a discussion about these items based on people's impressions of what they are, based on what they actually are, and you can have all those comments lined up together. I think that's probably going to be a little bit more effective and efficient. And if we put that in a Google Doc, that's something that everybody can have access to, and we can all see from the individual items what each commissioner that decided to participate in commenting. And I think it gives you more space to see exactly what it is. But we can definitely have that sent out to each of the commissioners, and you can put that information in. For those of you not familiar with the Google Doc, when you type it in and you put your information in, it's saved so that everybody can see it, and that would be a great way to share it with everyone and make it efficient so we can get it done by, what timetable did you give, Councilman Holmes? Did you say Tuesday or Thursday?
When our next meeting is when? December, is it? When is our next meeting?
Okay, team, when's the next meeting on the calendar?
I don't know the date, but it's the first Thursday in December.
So that would be
what is that? Is that Denise?
Yes, this is Denise. That will be December 1st.
Okay.
So if we could all have this completed, I would say no later than I think, since we'll all be able to see everyone's is transparent because it's a Google Doc. I think if we could all have this done, if you guys could have it out, Jerron, no later than midweek, and everyone have it done, say by the 22nd, 23rd, before, I guess that gives us a full, that gives us several days, roughly a week to have it done. And I know that this takes time for you guys to do. So it also gives you time to compile it and get it out to everyone. So if it can go out no later than, I'd say, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then everyone commit to having it done no later than the 25th, I think we'll be fine.
Okay, I'll work
This
with
is Commissioner Austin Wilson. At the same time, though, let us make sure that if we have questions, let's submit the questions to myself and Chair Austin so we can address those questions. We're not just scoring an evaluation of that budget. We also need to be mindful and make sure that we address our questions and concerns about it as well. We don't want to score on something that we're not educated enough on. So let's be mindful. If we have questions, let's go ahead and ask them to myself, Vice Chair, and to Chair.
Jerron, if we could add a block to that for questions, and I think that would allow everyone to see everyone else's questions and concerns, and also give Vice Chair and Chairman Austin a chance to address those in real time with their responses. And I think this Google Doc working doc is will give us a level of transparency that I think we need to have for this particular process.
Yes, and that can definitely be done. We can add that block, and this, just like anything, it would always be shared with the chair for any of the information moving forward. And I think from the process of managing the questions, I think having it on that central document makes the most sense, because it's difficult to really manage those individual concerns, and then everybody can see. I know some of the questions and concerns that have been from the commission has been being kept in the loop real time, and I think this is probably the best way to do that. So yeah, building the document with a place for comments and a place for questions for each of those items. I'll get with the team and we'll try to crank that out this week.
And Jerron, I know, I don't know if we did this, but I know Commissioner McCauley is new. So if we could get her a copy of the budget to review would be excellent.
Absolutely.
Okay, do we have any other, could I ask as well, the city, I guess it would be Denise, I guess, if we could get some type of summarization of our meeting today to send out to all the other commissioners that aren't present, and to make sure that Chair Austin receives all the information that we discussed today. So is that you send over the recording, or they have access to the recording, or?
Yeah, we'll send Denise is on my team. Yeah, so we'll send the recording out, and I think that'll give, since the meeting's not terribly long, and then that way people can hear what happened. Since we're trying to get this this document out, I want us to try to put all our energy on making sure we get this document finished. And it just takes a lot of time to do summary of transcription and such. So normally what we'll do is just send a copy of the meeting out so folks can listen and take away what they need, and that might spark some questions after listening to the meeting that maybe would have been left out in notes that will help them fill out their comments on that Google Doc even better. But yeah, we'll send that out, the copy of the meeting recording. We'll send that out to the commissioners. I think we still need to set up Commissioner McCauley's email. So Commissioner McCauley, if you haven't been able to get us that information, we'll be reaching out soon to get that from you.
Okay, everyone, if all hearts are in minds, would we like to adjourn the meeting? And we look forward to seeing some comments and some ratings.
This is Commissioner McCauley. I just want to be clear on what date. I've heard a couple of dates, like the 22nd, 23rd. The 24th is Thanksgiving. And I also heard the 25th. So, I want to be clear on which date we need to actually have this completed.
Commissioner McCauley, this is not a in-person or meeting. This is just some offline work that you have to complete. So I was just saying, anytime before the end of that week, would be good. So it's just essentially going in to the document and making your recommendations on the document. So if you can get it, if you can do it the day after you get the link, great. If you can't do it until the 25th, then that's fine too. It's just a range of dates to give you time to go through and make your recommendations on the budget. So, but we would like to have it back within a time enough for staff to compile the report for the December 1st meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, does any other commissioners or anyone, facilitators, anyone have any other comments for today's meeting? All right, we will convene on our next meeting, first week of December. And if we have any questions or concerns, let's just use our emails. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday afternoon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And if we all can, let's go and watch Hebrews to Negroes. I think we'll all be enlightened and have a whole nother conversation.